Welcome back to another Caring Support podcast. We are super excited this week because this is Nurses Week. And we have three amazing, wonderful superstar nurses with us. And many, in fact, probably a lot of the audience is going to know these people already ahead of time. But let's get started. And on my screen, I'm just going to go by the orientation I see here. So I'm going to start with Dionne. If you could please introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. Good day, everyone. My name is Dionne Sinclair. I am the Vice President of Clinical Operations and Chief Nursing Executive at the Center for Addictions and Mental Health. I am a registered nurse, but I always start off by saying, do not let my youthful good looks fool you. I graduated in 1986 from nursing. I also have a 34-year-old daughter who's also a registered nurse. I started out as an RPN when I graduated in 86. I did my diploma from Fanshawe College in 88, graduated with my Bachelor of Science from Western in 98. And in 2008, I finished my master's in nursing from York University. I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Western Ontario, completing my thesis in nursing leadership, looking at the strategies and characteristics a Black nurse leader needs to survive and thrive in a healthcare system that is systemically racist. That's me.
Wow. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm impressed. Okay, on to the next awesome nurse. Sara, you're up, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Sara Fung. I'm also a registered nurse. I'm coming on 16 years now in nursing. I also went to Western University for my undergrad, so that's where I got my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, followed by my Master's of Nursing at the University of Toronto. I spent about 8 years at the bedside, so all in maternal child health. I did labor and delivery, postpartum, level 3 NICU. I then moved into nursing leadership, so I worked for a while as a clinical nurse specialist and in professional practice, both in hospital and community care settings. I'm also the founder and CEO of the RN Resume, so helping nurses with their careers, as well as co-host and co-founder of the Gritty Nurse podcast. So we're all about mental health awareness, health equity, sharing stories of those who are vulnerable or who have been silenced. And I'm really glad to be here today and celebrating Nurses Week and all that it stands for.
Thank you, Sara. That was amazing. Wow, you guys are quite the blow me away. All the things you do, all the things you're buying. Everybody's so busy anymore. It's really great. And okay, so Mildred, you're up, and it's always great seeing you. You go ahead, please.
Hello, everybody, and happy Nurses Week to all. My name is Mildred Ababio, very similar to the lovely nurses that I have with me today. I bring close to 16 years of nursing experience and expertise. I think I'm the odd one here. I'm a Quebecer native, so bonjour à tous. Um, I relocated to Ontario when I came here to do my post-RN nursing degree, as the education system for nursing in Quebec is a little bit different than Ontario. But I furthered my studies, went on to do completing my post-RN education, and then I went on to doing a couple of different little things in between that. Different leadership certificate. I'm very driven towards leadership, and then I chose a little bit of a different route, and I went on and furthered my studies and obtained my MBA. In terms of clinical practice, I've worked everywhere from rural places in Quebec as well as in Ontario. And I've worked in different nursing departments from neurosurgery to emergency, psychiatric, med surg, geri surg. But I did a 360 after an encounter in one of the small villages that I was working with the Cree population, where on my third day going to the emergency to do my shift, there was a little house that was on the road there. And on the third day to my shift, the light was on. I decided to go in, when I went in and I checked, I introduced myself. That's when I saw that there was an elderly man that had fallen, that was unconscious and wasn't able to call for help. At that point, that's when I realized how vulnerable this population was. And I decided to do a whole 360 in my career. And I decided to become an advocate for the seniors care. So that's what I've been doing so far. And another unique skill set with me is I bring a strong business acumen as well as strong clinical expertise, as I believe that in nursing, the two goes hand in hand. So that's me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
This is great. Recently we did a podcast with a lovely young lady that was just graduating from nursing school. And she knows many of you ladies, follows you on LinkedIn, and she's like a total sweetheart. She's very smart, and an amazing young lady. But you know what's great is when you get people on with this much experience and so many stories to be told. So this is very, very exciting. And I think, I speak, sorry to say, in behalf of Callie and say that two of us are very privileged to have you amazing ladies on this podcast with us. Thank you so much. So I'm going to turn over the questions that to Callie at this point.
So speaking of stories, how about we take a look back at the last year, and maybe you guys could tell us what the most exciting thing is that happened to you guys in your career over the last year, and maybe anything else that might be exciting that you would like to share. Maybe we'll start with Sara this time.
Yeah, I'm going to name a few things, but I promise it'll be really brief. So the first is just getting back to seeing people in person has been really great, I think, just to get the energy and actually connect with people face to face. I had the privilege of doing some speaking engagements with the Canadian Medical Association, the Canadian Nurses Association. So really just sharing and trying to uplift nursing, because we all know it's been really difficult over the past few years, and really just connecting with nurses and understanding where their struggles are and how we can best support them. And I think just even with helping nurses with their career paths, it's come to a point now where I can see on the other side, clients are coming back to me and saying, hey, I landed my dream job. I'm so much happier now. I feel like I have work-life balance again. So it's been really great just to see those rewarding, the follow-ups that we hear from nurses that are really struggling and really not feeling like nursing is for them, and seeing them become passionate again about their career. So that's been really exciting. The other thing is that with the Gritty Nurse podcast, Amy and I are in the process of publishing a book actually about nursing with HarperCollins. So that's going to be coming out sometime in 2024. And that's been a really exciting process to think about all of the experiences that we can share with not just nurses, but the general public.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, be sure to inform us of when this book's coming out. I'll definitely pick it up.
Okay. I'll sign a copy and send it to you guys.
That would be great. Yeah.
Mildred, what about you?
Well, thank you for asking. So two great things has happened for me. The first thing is I've had the privilege to work with the Wound Ostomy Canada. And I had a great opportunity to be part of the panelists that was helping educate the population and healthcare workers when it came to how to better care in terms of wound care, how to better care for people of color, right? And my presentation was entitled Every Color Matter. And it was important to explain that and explain the intricacy and the nuances that comes to that, because the way you would nurse and the way you would care for a Caucasian person would not be the same way that you'll care for somebody that comes from a European descent that have that olive undertone, or somebody that's from South Asia that have a little bit of a darker undertone, or somebody that's dark skin like me. The symptoms does not present the same. The wound does not present the same. So what are the challenges that could arise from that? So I had the privilege to talk about that, present about that. And actually next Saturday, I'm presenting again at their 42nd annual conference and helping propel that forward. We need to create awareness, and there's lots of education that needs to be done around that. The second exciting thing that happened is having the opportunity to do more advocacy work for ACB communities. And right now, one personal work that I've taken on board, which is a passion of mine, is connecting with the ACB communities and educating them and advancing knowledge mobilization when it comes to advanced care planning, because that's an area that's not really touched about. It's almost taboo in certain of these communities. So that's something that I want to create awareness on, because it is a need that I find that is happening in these ACB communities, and that's something that I've been taking on board as a personal project and going out there and creating the awareness. So those are the two exciting things that happened for me upon reflection.
That's amazing. Good for you, Mildred. You guys are something else. I just love how you're so passionate about the things you do and just get out there and do it. And so many people really, at the end of the day, like, you know, 'cause people come up to me. I love to network, as Sara was talking about, being back together with people again and everything. My main business partner and I, we love to network. We love just that energy of being in the same room with people. And so, you know, it's nice when you see you guys doing it. I know Dionne, she's super busy and so much going on. And of course, now it's her time to let us know what's happening in her life in the last year.
Okay, and I want to say Happy Nurses Week to everyone, all the nurses out there. A lot's been happening. The biggest thing for the past year and a half, I'll say, I competed and won this position here at CAMH as Vice President and Chief Nursing Executive. Out of all the Black or nurses of African descent in this province, and there's quite a lot of us, there's two that I know of that are in acute care hospitals that are actually chief nurses. One is at Scarborough General and myself. So in 2019, I founded the Canadian Black Nurses Network, and we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. It's just a place where nurses can come together. We support, coach, mentor, help each other. But we also do what Sara's doing. Myself and other directors, we help with resume writing, we help with interview prep, and our goal is to put Black nurse leaders into senior leadership spaces. So I am very proud to say in the last year, we've had over 6 nurses either move from manager into director position, and we even have one other move from the position of director into a VP position. And it's in VP looking after DEI, but it's still amazing that before you could not even get into the C-suite, as they call it, senior executive teams. The other big thing that has happened is being in this position has given me the platform to go out and talk to many schools and many students about what it is to be a leader of color, racialized leader, and that it is possible. So when you can't be what you don't see, so I show up authentic to say, here I am, it is possible. Started as an RPN, now I'm sitting again at that leadership table. So for University of Western Ontario, I was their alumni of the year for the Labatt School of Nursing. Same thing with Fanshawe College. I received alumni of the year for the health science category. Again, it gave me a platform to go and share my vision of nursing and how nurses should be treated. I spent many years at the front line, 11 years as a night nurse due to childcare. And I can share that you want to feel valued and appreciated. And you want to make sure where you're working is a place you feel a sense of belonging. You feel welcomed and you feel that you have an equal opportunity to progress through the organization. Sharing all that with the different schools that I've gone to and all the different platforms I've spoken on at CAMH, in less than a year, we hired over 400 RNs and RPNs, which is unheard of in this climate where people are saying no one's coming into nursing or no one wants to be recruited because it's such an environment in acute care hospitals. I consider CAMH acute care because mental health, we've got an emergency room, we've got acute patients, it's acute care, but nurses are drawn to CAMH because they see the type of nurse leader I am, they see the team that I've cultivated, and they know how they'll be treated because I am present. I'm actually here in my office. I'm on the floors, I'm on the units, I speak to the staff, I ask them, how are you? And we put in many supports to help. And I just have to share one of the major support was is a big change that we've done. Usually you have educators Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. We have evening educators and weekend educators. So when you're a brand new nurse on the unit, you have questions, you have concerns, and you're looking to your colleague for help. It's like, listen, I got my own assignment. You better look it up. Well, now they've got resources, and the nurses told us we want to feel comfortable and feel safe, and we want someone we can go to. So we have people hired into the role to be that resource on the off hours when their manager and their advanced practice leader is away. So those are, I'm really proud of having supports in for the new staff, having all the new staff in, but to be recognized as that nurse leader that can go out and speak to the future nurse leaders that are coming up.
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but all three of you are amazing. Here's the thing. What I really love what Dionne said there is, you know, all day long, I'm talking to people in HR, right? And I mean, you guys probably already know that. But the truth of the matter is like when I encounter people that have a retention and turnover problem, and we're talking and quantifying what this is really costing them more than they realize. Well, I said to them, like, why are people leaving? You know, automatically you hear, oh, more money. Okay. And I say, well, how do you know that? Did you ask them? No. And I'm like, well, how would you know? Right. Well, they've already gone. And so, you know, what I love what you said, Dionne, is the fact that you're building and through everyone else there, and as a leader, not only, you know, a person of color coming in and doing this, but you are highly emotional intelligent, which I love. And you are saying, okay, we really need to make people feel appreciated, heard, respected, and that they're going to thrive in an environment so that we realize, you know, the old adage of people leave a bad company, right, versus a bad boss. We all know it's really the bad boss a lot of the times. If someone can absolutely create a terrible toxic environment, who wants to work in that, right? So good on you, Dionne. That's really, really awesome. You know, and 400 nurses, that's amazing. Like, very good.
So last year when we did like a nurses roundtable, one of the big topics was burnout and the eventual, you know, return to the profession. How, you know, the nurses were hoping that they would see some people coming back over 2022 and 2023. So in your opinion, what do you think healthcare organizations need to do to win back the trust of their nurses? And what do you think they can do to lure or attract people to come back into the profession? And we'll start with Dionne.
So one of the things, again, I'm a nurse leader and an executive in the organization. I am a vice president of operations, so I look after different programs. The biggest thing we can do is be flexible, be nimble, be adaptive. And I've gone out there, I sit on a recruitment and retention committee, and it's like, if nurses need to work night shifts because of childcare or whatever issues, we need shifts that are for nights. And I'll be told, oh, but the managers need to see them on days so they can check their performance. And it's like, managers can come in on nights and see the staff and see performance. We need weekend shifts. If somebody can, they have other commitments and they can work for us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 12-hour in the own a collective agreement. Those provisions are there. We need to be flexible because if we're not giving all night shifts or weekend shifts, there's a hospital down the road that is, and people will exodus. They will leave. So you have to be nimble that way. The other thing is you've got to listen to the front line. The front line, they're the ones that know what's going on. They're the ones with the best and bright and most innovative ideas. And if you go and ask them, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And then we don't listen. It's like, forget it. You're not listening to me. I'll go somewhere else. I'll take a chance somewhere else where I'll be listened to. There's a lot organizations can do, but most hospitals, when you're sick and inside, you are there for 24/7 nursing care. 24/7. The person that's there 24/7, it's not all the other allied health. Yes, there might be a duty doctor on, but it's 24/7 nursing care that you're there for. So you need to listen to the nurses. When they tell you what's wrong, what needs fixing, you need to listen. So organization that wants to attract and keep and retain their nurses, listen a lot more and then do what they say because it's important. And they need to see you do that So you build trust. You need the credibility, and it won't happen overnight. It won't happen after you've listened to a few things. You have to continually go back and demonstrate, yes, I'm listening. And then when you mess up or screw up, you say, you know what, I messed up. This happened. It shouldn't have happened. Here's what I've learned. Here's what I'm going to do differently. You got to be humble and say, I don't know everything. I remember at South Lake during the middle of the pandemic, we had a WTF moment because it's like we didn't know what was going on, but it was okay to say, we don't know. And one of the things I just share the last thing, when I go into organizations, I said, listen, everyone, in this organization, there are no problems, no concerns, no issues whatsoever. Only opportunities where we can improve, change the language. Opportunities for improvement, you're going to see them, you're going to hear about them. We need to know because we are not perfect. We're expecting you to bring those opportunities forward. Bring it to your manager so we can learn and grow. That's the only way we're going to get better. No organization is perfect. So you'll go to another place, you're going to find opportunities. And so help us out by sharing them with us.
Can you imagine if every kind of business had leaders who talk like this? How much things would be different? I'm serious, right? I'll tell you, when we started this business, I remember saying to Joe at one point, I can promise you, I have seen my share of bad managers, bad bosses, and some good leaders. I'm a positive-minded person, but I said, I will tell you this, I'll always make sure that I'm making people feel like you are part of something special. You matter to us. We want to hear what you have to say, not yes sir, no sir crap. Feel engaged, be it, and tell me I'm full of crap. I'm okay. I can handle it. Like, just be straight up, because guess what? Unless we're willing to listen, nothing's going to change, right? So, Dionne, I congratulate you for having this kind of mindset. It's amazing. It's long overdue. And more people need to adapt, like to adopt the way you think. Absolutely. It's not about everyone's convenience. You're saying, listen, that nurse is on the front line. That's the one at the end of the day that you need to do whatever you can to create an environment and everything the way they feel like, yeah, because that's the last person you want to lose, right? And we already know how precious nurses are anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to shut up. I thought that was great, Dionne. And I'm sure the other amazing women can add to that for sure.
Mildred, we'll head on over to you.
Okay. I echo everything that Dionne has said, and she couldn't have articulated any better. During COVID, I was gone for 6 months. I was at the forefront of the battlefield. Even within my leadership role that I had, I was there, boots on ground, side by side with my PSW, my housekeepers, my nurses, and we were doing it all. With that being said, to answer the question, I realized that there's been a mass exodus after COVID. And one of the things I believe is, bring nurses to the table. Start bringing your frontline to the table, and let's have an honest conversation where the leaders are actually practicing active listening, but more importantly, deep listening. So I don't like what the key element here is, have you heard us? I know the leaders are listening, but the question is, have they heard the nurses? Because I really believe that if they have heard the nurses, then they will start implementing change. And we're not looking for major drastic change. Change start by small increments. And one of the change is for the leaders. Now, Dionne is an exemplary leader and she's the exception to the rule. But for most organizations, you want leaders to show empathy. You want leaders to show emotional intelligence. You want leaders to show authenticity, transparency, right? These are all things that nurses are looking for. And, let's change the working condition, right? It's important for the leaders. They're the driving force behind policy making and decision makers and what's not. But they need to come down to the frontline level. They need to take one day where, don't come in your fancy suit, wear a scrub, put some sneakers on, and just follow me, just shadow me. And let me show you what my day-to-day operation is, and maybe they'll have a better in-depth understanding. Money is one thing, but another thing is recognition, empowerment, and feeling heard. You can't entice nurses by, saying you guys have done a good job, here's pizza or here's a tim
Right.
card. All of those elements have been played out. We're at the level where, and I speak from both sides, being in leadership and also having been at the forefront and being at the battlefield. We're at the level where we don't want that. We want a seat at the table, and we want to put our condition forward, and we want to invite the leaders to come down to the frontline level, because at the end of the day, for any organization, the building block and the foundation of that organization is their frontline staff. Without the frontline staff, there is no organization. Senior leadership will not be there because they're the one that's really doing the work. So it's important to really listen to the nurses and hearing them to what they have to say and revisiting their working condition. Another thing that I would say that was really, really important that some organization failed to do is what happened to the emotional support and the mental health aspect. We all know how devastating COVID was. For those that were not working frontline, they have an idea of it and they have an image, or they hear from their peers or they hear from their colleagues. Being somebody that physically worked around the clock, sometimes I remember one time I literally considered putting a leg bag on because I did not have the opportunity to go to the bathroom. And it was just that bad. Our number one goal was better patient outcome, providing care to these patients. But it took a toll on us. And nobody stopped to check in to say, how are you guys doing? But really, how are you guys doing? Because it's one thing working, but after you finish working, there's a whole process that continues on when you have to go home. Some people, some staff were not even staying home, they were staying in hotels because they didn't want to bring that over to their families. I had to live in my basement and be excluded from my family. I have a child that's immunocompromised, right? So I didn't want to bring that to my child. And it was hard for me to be in my basement and not have that physical contact with my family and my kids. And I remember my daughter would cry and my son would cry because they wanted to hug mommy, they wanted to be with mommy, but mommy could not be with them, right? So these are all of other elements and aspects that I feel that sometimes leaders and organizations fail to realize. It's not enough to send us thank you cards. I know of one organization that what they did is they brought on a psychologist just for the staff to say, guys, I know it's been hard. It's been a hard couple of months, hard couple of years. Let's just talk what is going on and how can we support you. So I would say, you want to retain nurses, you want to bring nurses back into the workforce. Well, nurses will come back naturally because we're caring people and we came into this profession because we wanted to help and we wanted to make a meaningful contribution. But the only way we could do that is by being the best versions of ourselves. So we as nurses, we have the responsibility to take care of ourselves, but our employer also have that responsibility to accompany us and do what they need to do to support us in taking care of ourselves in order for us to be the best version of ourselves and impregnate our skills, our knowledge, and our passion and our dedication back into the organization to render better patient outcome.
Yeah. That reminds me of the famous quote from Richard Branson when he said, no, you don't look after your clients first, you look after your staff first. He said, because when they look after the staff, they will do everything like unimaginable because they feel appreciated. And I mean, I'm loving this, ladies. You guys are amazing. Sara?
I think you guys brought up so many great points. And I think the only other things I can add is I do talk to a lot of nurses in all stages of their career. And there are probably three things that are really impacting them right now. So I think first is lack of flexibility in scheduling. As Dionne said, we need to work with staff because we have lives outside of work. And when we feel like we have no control over our schedules, that's a huge issue. The second thing is bullying. So either from peers or from management, there's a lot of bullying that goes on that doesn't get talked about and doesn't get addressed. And staff don't have the tools or the resources to address this. And sometimes they feel like the solution is just to leave. And we lose a lot of great nurses that way. The other thing is, like you said, James, bad managers. So what do we do about it, right? I think we all like to think that our organizations have great managers, but we know that's not the case, unfortunately. So maybe some sensitivity training, or really just being able to call out managers who aren't supporting their staff properly. I think that's really important. And I wish that we could follow in the footsteps of California and BC and actually enforce safe patient ratios. I think that is what a lot of frontline workers are looking for, just that reassurance that they will be able to provide safe care, be able to provide the high quality care that we were all trained to do. And it is morally distressing when healthcare providers feel that they aren't able to do so. So I think just one last thing is just what I call feedback fatigue. So a lot of times, even when I was in leadership, we would ask staff, what do you want to change? How can we make things better? But we weren't able to actually either make the change, or we weren't able to get back to them about what changes were made. So they feel like, I'm sharing all this feedback about things that need to be improved, and I'm not either seeing it or I'm not getting any updates as to where my feedback has gone. And it doesn't feel like there's any reward for offering these suggestions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good points. Fantastic, ladies. I can tell you right now, with caring support, when we're talking to all these different organizations, and many times these kind of subjects come up. And I know I was talking to a big hospital, and they were like, well, and I said, guys, you know what? Can I just be straight up with you? And they said, yeah, because we know each other really well. And I said, you have here, when I look at most people's websites, home care, long-term care, I don't care, like no disrespect, but it looks like business as usual, doesn't it? Yeah, but is it? And I said, the other side over here has got all these nurses, PSWs, whatever, all burned out, whatever. And I said, what would be great? And they said, what? If you owned it. And they're like, huh? Like I said, nobody, I get there's this fear of vulnerability, but nobody in this country for 1 second thinks our healthcare system's perfect. Nobody. So how about just say, something like, I'm like the way Dionne thinks, and clearly this messaging is out there, because here is a stellar leader that's basically advocating and making people feel like, I want to work there because this is what I hear. And then the word of mouth is big too, right? I'm sure Dionne is seeing that big time, that other nurses are going, yeah, you want to work with Dionne the rock star and everybody else here because this place is awesome. Like this is how we feel working here. We feel really appreciated. So I love everything you guys said there. So Callie, please.
Now we're going to take a look at the hopes and dreams for the future. So what are your hopes for the nursing profession for the next year or two? We'll start with Mildred this time.
Well, my hopes is that we can bring back our nurses, and that we close the gap that's happening with this mass exodus, right? I think all the system partners need to sit at the table, put their thoughts together, and turn their decisions into action, because we all know how important nursing is. And really, at the end of the day, the population is relying on us, the patients are relying on us, the doctors are relying on us, the healthcare system is relying on us. So I really hope that we could come to some form of decision and conclusion sooner rather than later, because it's needed. And it is good that we're bringing on board all of these internationally educated nurses, but we still have to address the problem that's affecting us here at home. So that would be my hopes and dreams.
Excellent. Yeah. Sara, what do you think?
I think really nurses need to be given more of a voice. So it's been so common that there's a lot of fear and silencing in nursing, fear of speaking up. I think it's really needed because nurses, they don't feel comfortable speaking up, and sometimes they do speak up and it doesn't go well. So we need to make sure that nurses feel safe to speak up. We need to give them the space and the opportunity to speak up. I also think, without getting too political, I think that the government needs to put more resources and more funding into recruiting and retaining healthcare workers. I just think that there's been a lot of talk and not enough action. So I would like to see more action. I think what we can all do is reach out to your local politicians and see where they stand on healthcare and educate yourself. When it comes to the next election, make sure you vote for whoever does support healthcare workers and let them know what the issues are.
Yeah, very well said. Dionne?
All right, thank you. For me, it's empowering nurses to also, exactly what Sarah said, they have a voice, they can step up, because you're actually not there for all the tasks. There's a whole list of tasks. You're doing vitals, you're giving meds, you're documenting, and then some more documentation. But really, you're there because you've gone through school, you've got the knowledge, skill, and judgment for your critical thinking. We need you for the times where there's something happening and there's no policy. We need your clinical judgment. A nurse looks at a patient in more than one dimension. They see them holistically. A nurse can walk in a room and look and see somebody. It's like, okay, this person's deteriorating. How do you know that? Well, you don't know. Nurses have their own epistemology where it's like, we know how we know what we know. It's hard to explain to you. So we need to empower nurses to say, no, I'm here because of my clinical judgment and my critical thinking skills. Yeah, I can do vitals with my eyes closed, but you need me here to catch that deteriorating patient. In mental health, you need me here to make sure we don't have successful inpatient suicides, or make sure the patients, when they need someone to talk to, they know there's a trusted person there at 3 a.m. they can reach out and talk to, and somebody who will listen and understand and say, you know what, we need to get you the whatever resource or service or programming you may need to overcome that. So we are trusted as nurses. We need everyone else to know and understand that, but we need nurses to know and understand that. There is this thing called imposter syndrome. And I want everyone to take that and just throw it out the window, because for nurses and organizations, a lot of it is imposter treatment. Do you really belong here? Do you really know what you're doing? Are you really qualified? Well, if you just showed up, guess what? You're a novice nurse, and your abilities as a novice is what I expect. Are you going to make mistakes? You better. Do not come here and say, well, I know everything, I'm perfect, I don't make mistakes. When you're graduating to an expert nurse, there's also certain things I'm expecting from you as an expert nurse. But guess what? You are qualified. You are experienced. You took the hardest undergraduate program in any university in this country, is that BSCN program. So do not feel like an imposter. You are a novice, and we need to treat you like a novice, but you're graduating to an expert, and those expert nurses have the knowledge, skill, and judgment every hospital should treasure. The other thing we need to do is nurse leaders, they need leadership development. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't yank somebody from the front line. Oh, you've been here 5 years, you're good enough to be a manager, good luck. No, there has to be development. There has to be mentorship. There has to be coaching, and there has to be sponsorship. And sponsorship is when I can speak Mildred's name in rooms where opportunities been discussed. If the premier says, I need someone to sit on a provincial task force looking at seniors care and nursing retention, it's like, you know what? I know this nurse named Mildred, and I believe she's the best candidate for the position. So for the future, I want nurses to feel that empowerment. Own your space, like Sara has been doing with her Gritty Nurse podcast, and really say, no, I'm here because of the knowledge I have, the knowledge I received in school, but also the experience and knowledge I'm gaining through that experience. Don't expect a brand new grad showing up to know, well, that nurse didn't know everything. It's like, well, I didn't expect her to. I actually expect you to make some mistakes. And I tell that to staff. Because if you say, well, I'm here 10 years and I've never made a mistake, you're the person I'm most afraid of. You're lying, because the environment is too chaotic. The environment, like we've seen how messy things get. You get distracted. Mistakes will happen, but what did we learn? What are you going to do differently? We need a just culture, no bullying, but we also need an anti-Black, anti-Indigenous culture also in organizations. And I only say Black and Indigenous because we are the two most marginalized groups. And until you feel safe, psychologically safe to show up to work, you're not going to have people coming back. So hope for the future is the empowerment we're going to give nurses to say, no, reclaim your space, reclaim your authority as the expert, the content matter expert when it comes to quality patient care. And you're the one that's there Christmas morning. Who else is there? Thanksgiving. Who is there
Yeah.
any holiday when you want to be home with your children, but you're still there taking care?
Yeah.
For a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about, well, I wouldn't have done that. It's like, really? Where were you? You should show up next Christmas and let's chat. So anyway, I digress. I'll stop talking.
No, that was great. All answers were great. I know that, when you were talking about imposter syndrome, Sara here has done many posts on imposter syndrome because I watch a lot of content Sara puts out because I think it's awesome. And I think it's very inspiring for people. And what I love about you ladies is you're okay with vulnerability. I also, when it comes to the race thing, I mean, hey, I know I'm white, but you know what kills me is I was saying to a group of friends one day, and then one of my best friends from Brazil, another one, he's black. He came originally from Nigeria. Great guy. I love to help immigrants in our community. But I say to people, I just don't understand why this is such a problem. Like COVID affected everyone. It didn't matter your ethnicity, didn't matter your background, didn't matter if you had money or not, didn't matter. Didn't matter. So why are we even talking about it? And obviously you are because it's still a problem.
Yes.
And that is such a shame.
Yeah, and
It
I
is.
just need to jump in there because I do know, Sara,
Yeah.
if you talk about imposter syndrome, I'm saying that it's not really a syndrome, especially for racialized nurses or nurses in general. It's a treatment. How are you getting treated by others? It's imposter treatment. They're projecting their insecurities on you. You're not supposed to know everything if you're a novice. You are supposed to have knowledge if you are a senior nurse. And so don't treat me as if I don't know anything. I've actually gone to school and I've got experience and I know my patient. I've talked to them. I've spent 24/7 with them, whereas you come in from 9 to 5. You don't show up on weekends. I'm still
Excellent.
here. And so imposter treatment is something that people should understand. That's how you're being made to feel that way, but really that's not you. Don't own it. Throw it back to someone else. When it comes to racism, James, I have to tell you, this is part of my PhD work. It's a system. It's embedded. It's colonial system. It is white supremacy baked in. It's hard to see, but a big thing is credentialism. Like for this position I'm in, I need a PhD. And so I'm in school getting my PhD, no worries. But when you say in organization, oh, you need a master's to be a manager, guess what? There's a lot of nurses out there who can't afford to go back to get their master's. They're single mom, 3 kids, no child support. They could do it, but they got other priorities. So they'll never be a manager. They're mostly the racialized population. And when you looked at COVID, you saw who did not get the vaccine in time, or you saw who didn't get, they were the essential workers in grocery stores getting sick and dying. And you wondered, oh, nobody in Hyde Park was suffering from that. And they got their vaccine very early, but they're not going to the grocery store serving people. So there's a lot baked into the system. That's why they call it systemic racism. It's hard to see, but boy, people like me were tired of feeling it. I see it and feel it daily. Actually, had an occurrence today, but I'm getting over it.
Wow.
I'm going to interject on that. And to add to the systemic racism, one area that we need to sensitize and, encourage organization to do training on is unconscious biases. The unconscious biases, I think that is the worst. Um, when you're there and certain people say certain stuff, whether they believe it or not, or whether they don't believe it, there's certain things that shouldn't be said, or that's why are you saying it to me and you're not saying it to my white colleague, right? And then we also have to add in our education tokenism, right? With COVID happening and with, George Floyd happening, a lot of people started going into this whole DEI movement. And in some organization, you will have, a DEI department, and you will see a person of color there. but it's tokenism because they've put that person there to say, yeah, this is DEI, we've got somebody, but does that person really have the power instilled in that position to make the changes necessary to propel and to move the organization forward? And unfortunately, James, the answer is no.
Yeah,
So all
I
of
believe
that is,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen that in a couple places. I actually called somebody out one day on it, just purely because, I'm not a fan of a lot of things, no matter what it is, where virtue signaling happens. Drives me nuts. I'm just saying, you know what? Doing these kinds of things doesn't mean you wear a ribbon. It doesn't mean that you raised your hand and said, oh, yeah, I'm all behind this. No, it involves action. Action.
Mhm.
So when I use something, I'll say this is somewhat comparable. Anytime I ever get in an Uber, it's not too often. 9 times out of 10, it's a immigrant driving.
Mhm.
So I get talking to them and I forewarn them, just so you know, I'm different. They start laughing. They go, and I said, I want to know your story. And so I tell them mine. And then, I find out that, oh my God, listen, I can really help you. I'd like to introduce you to tons of people. I don't care where they came from. Couldn't care less. Like, you're a person, you have feelings, you need help, you're new in a community. What can I do? Right? So, like, focusing on the stuff, but Dionne's right. This is something that's been hard baked in for a lot of people for a long time. And I think it's really, really a shame. It just hinders so much progress that we could make happen. So anyway, enough said. But
So we're going to morph into talking about something that some people would call trendy right now. And we probably all have a nurse in our life or know a nurse in our life that has picked up or has developed a side hustle, a side business, something that they're passionate about, whether it's scrubs or study aids or any number of other things. It's become normal when you're scrolling TikTok or you're scrolling Instagram to see these little small brands popping up all over the place, and which I think is pretty cool. And I know that nurses are incredibly busy, so I don't even know how they do it. But so what do you guys think about this current trend in the rise of nurses having these side hustles? And maybe do any of you have any, which we've kind of touched on a couple here? And what do you think would be something that people should consider if they are thinking about getting into having a side hustle business, if they already are a full-time nurse and passionate about nursing as well? And we'll start with Sara.
Yeah, I think that it's something that never occurred to me when I graduated nursing. So I was taught, you graduate nursing, go get a job in a hospital, work until you retire, and that's your path. So it took me a while to realize that this is something I could do or even something I wanted to do. And I want to encourage people listening to think big. So it doesn't have to be a side hustle. It could be your main business. Maybe it starts out as a side hustle, but if you're able to grow it and you're able to make an income off of it, this could be your main source of income. And what I've seen over the past few years, and especially during pandemic, is the growth of online based businesses. So selling digital products, coaching businesses, even doing what I do, which is basically over Zoom and, sending people documents. I think it sounds like not a lot, but it really is helping people change their lives. And I really think of nurses as my patients now. So I think that it's just something that's really evolving. And one thing that I see a lot in nurses is the lack of confidence to do something different, right? And I think this goes back to imposter treatment or imposter syndrome, where we don't see anyone doing what we're doing, particularly nurses of color. And we think that, well, I don't know if I belong in this space, but you absolutely do. There is a place for everyone. There is a niche for everyone. You just need to start doing it, essentially. Learning through trial and error is a big part of that process. It's not going to be perfect. And I even put a post out yesterday or today where I said, has anyone ever gotten an IV in on their first try? If the answer is no, it's because you needed to learn through trial and error. You needed to make mistakes in order to develop that skill. And that's the same with being in business. And I think that it's something that we just feel conditioned to as nurses, as women, as people of color, that we can't do it because this is a world for somebody else. But you absolutely can do it. And I want people listening to know that. And so I guess just getting back to your question, it is a lot of online stuff, but there are lots of nurses, especially I think she's come onto this podcast as well, Barbara, who owns Your Nursing Educator, selling things like nursing reference cards or lanyards. Like, these are all things that we need every day and things that actually help us do our jobs better.
Absolutely. Mildred, what do you think?
I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think we need to support the entrepreneurship, and we need to support any nurse out there that wants to go into it. Just like Sara said, it might start as a side hustle and turn into your main source of income. The beauty about nursing and the beauty about nurses is that, you know, we have hidden gems, we have hidden skills, and us nurses, we see things through different dimensions, and we see things and we approach things from a holistic way of doing things. You might have a nurse that maybe is working in critical care, but she has a different set of skills in a different department, in different areas. And for us nurses, we are forward thinkers and we are result driven. And I think any nurse that embarks into an entrepreneurial role or into some kind of business comes from the place of quality improvement. Us nurses, when we're working on the floor, everything we do, we put the care inside, but most importantly, we're doing it because we want to improve. And when we see that something is not working, then we want to fix it, right? There's lots of nurses just right here. You've got Dionne that is doing stuff in leadership and in academia and helping propel Black nurses break that glass ceiling and getting into the C-suite. You've got Sara that's helping nurses rebuild their confidence, coaching, mentoring, doing their CV for them to be ready and fit, with their armor guard on to target the workforce. So you've got the other person, Barbara, that's doing lanyard, regardless of what the side hustle is, whether it's in academia, whether it's in coaching, whether it's in consulting. I think it's great. And I think, it's almost like it's funneling up and it's contributing meaningfully to the overall systemic problem that we have in healthcare, because every nurse, irrespective of their line of business or whatever product that they're selling, whether it's e-commerce, it's a brick and mortar type of services, or it's a consultant or a mentoring and coaching, I think it impacts everybody. It impacts the nurse that's doing that business. It impacts the nurse, like their target audience, and it also impacts the organization and the overall, which is the healthcare system. So I believe that if you know any nurse out there, support their business, right? Support their business, because that's the only way we will help reform the issues that we have in our healthcare. That's the only way we're going to help each other. And each one in our own specialty, we are helping one another. And if we're not helping one another, we are helping those behind us. We are paving the way forward for those behind us to walk through what we've walked through, and actually to avoid the difficulty and the challenges that we've walked through. So I would encourage everybody that's out there that knows of a nurse that has an entrepreneurial business or any form of business to encourage it. Whether they could use those services, go out there and get the service from your fellow nurse. If it's services that is not necessarily meant for you, spread the word. Sing like a canary, spread the word, spread it in your network, share it, because everybody could benefit from services from a nurse, believe me.
Yeah, really well said. Thank you. Dionne.
Okay, so it's really funny. I am an entrepreneur. I am a business owner. I lead with that because I do not believe that there is such a thing as job security. As a nurse, depending on the government of the day, I was around when the Mike Harris government came to town and was laid off with a group of my colleagues. I've worked in an organization where the VP didn't like me, came in and said, "You're really not a good fit for my team," fired me on the spot. So no matter where I'm working, even in this position, I do not sit here thinking, oh, I'm comfortable, this job is secure. I always have a plan B. So any nurse out there listening to me is, what is your plan B? What happens if you lose your ability to earn income. And I'm not even saying lose your job. What if you got sick and you didn't die?
Right,
So
right.
one of my business, as a business owner, I'm in financial services. I've got my license as an insurance agent. Now, with my busy schedule and my PhD, I'm not doing it and writing up policies, but I have a team of other business owners that work with me. If I refer someone to them and somebody does do business, I get 50%. For a conflict of interest, I've signed a FISTER agreement. I don't talk to anybody at CAMH that I work with, but I do have a lot of friends in other areas. And I tell nurses, listen, you need to be financially literate. So I am very passionate about nurses understand how money works and how they can save and grow their money. The other thing that I had to do when I came as a business owner is learn myself how money works. There's a lot of nurses out there without a will. There's a lot of nurses who are separated, they've never divorced, and they think that, oh, when something, if they pass, everything goes right to their kids. It's like, no, your ex-husband that you didn't divorce, everything goes there. Your pension goes there. Your kids may not see a dime. You have to have a will, have a power of attorney, one for healthcare, one for finances. And so what I do the last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m., there is a master class on financial literacy. We talked about how to save and do a budget yesterday. The next time we're talking about the cash flow quadrant and how you need to be a business owner and you need your money making money for you while you are sleeping. Because it is a job that involves lotion, potions, lipsticks, or candles. You got to be there. How do you take a vacation? If you take a vacation, your money takes a vacation. And so you need something that it'll come in whether you're there or not. And that's something I set up for myself. It is virtual. You're right across Canada. And so if anybody are interested in learning more about it, they can hit me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. But it is financial services is one of the businesses you can get into where you can make $1 million. And you can do it again while you're sleeping because everyone, if you have a car, you probably have car insurance. You probably don't know who's getting the commission every year that you renew that insurance, do you? And so it was one of the essential services. Banks did not close during COVID. Everything else shut down, but it's an essential service. The government made sure of that. There's a lot of nurses. The other thing is, I tell them you need to be a business owner when it comes to taxes, because I know nurses, they work overtime. They work a lot of overtime. And what happened? They went into a higher tax bracket. And what did the government do? Saying, hey, you owe us some more money because you're now at a 53.3% bracket. And so what do? They work more overtime to try and pay off the taxes. They're away from their families. They're working a 12-hour shift. They are tired. It's like 16 days in a row, which is ridiculous and dangerous. So go get yourself a business because the Canadian tax code favors business owners. You know yourself, James, you're a business owner. The Canadian tax code gives you tax breaks, tax benefits that you can bring your tax bracket down where you pay less. As a VP, it has helped me because I would be paying a lot more taxes than I do, but I'm a business owner and I've got tax break. I'm also a landlord. So Richard Branson said 7 forms of income. You can't have just one. So you need a plan B. You need to get your financial house in order. You need to be a business owner so you can capitalize on all the tax breaks because the rich does not pay taxes. T4 employees pay taxes. If your side hustle involves a T4, if it's another job somewhere, you're just putting yourself in another tax bracket. So the government's going to come get more of your hard-earned dollars. Why not stay home and have your money work for you? I truly believe in side hustles. I've got a few. I'm a public speaker. I'm a landlord. I'm also a business owner in financial services. I'm a licensed insurance agent, and I have colleagues who write for me. I get half. 50% is not bad. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. So what's next, Dionne? Being an astronaut, maybe?
No, actually, I am on the Jamaican Olympic curling team. Jamaica has a bobsled team. If you look up Curling Jamaica, I lived in Thunder Bay. I worked for the Northwest Lynn. I learned to curl. They started an Olympic curling team. We're going to the 2026 Olympics in Milan, Italy. And I'm on the female curling team. I'm on the seniors curling team. A couple weeks ago, Mexico beat us. We had a bonspiel, but I am actually an Olympic curler for Jamaica. We've got
Wow.
bobsled, and now we've got curlers. So
Good
Wow.
yeah,
for
that's what's
you.
next.
Good
Yeah,
for you.
so Annika, who's one of the owners in the company, she's actually in Toronto, and she's director of all the marketing and that. So Annika is amazing, but she is an avid curler, and she really
Okay,
loves
we
it.
need to talk. She
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
need to
I'll
talk.
introduce you. So anyway, that's great stuff, ladies. This has been an amazing conversation. And I think a lot of nurses, no matter where they are in their stage, they need to hear this. They need to hear, your stories, your wisdom. That what you said at the end there, Dionne, like that just makes total sense. Mildred, you absolutely, everything you were saying is so bang on about why it's important to have these side hustles and why it's important that other people support what they're trying to accomplish. Sara, it's great what you're talking about all the time. I love all of the content you ladies are sharing with us. So go ahead, Dionne.
I just had one more thing to say. Because it's Nurses Week, I want to talk to all the nurses. You need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You are going to be replaced in a heartbeat if anything happens to you. So take the vacation.
Yes.
Take time to meditate, exercise, whatever you need to do. Get a circle of sisters or brothers, whomever around you to support you. Go do something fun, something you love. Your work should not be everything. It is okay to take time off, decompress. You gotta self-care. I wake up at 5:30 and I teach a fitness class, but it's something I love. I'm very passionate about fitness. If anybody looks up Dionne Sinclair fitness model, you're going to see me. I'm a pro fitness and figure competitor. So you need to take care of yourself. Your health is all you got. And
Yeah.
if you lose it, it doesn't matter what else you have. Your health is the
Mhm.
wealth you have. So please, please, please take care of
Well
yourself.
said. Well said. Thank you. Callie, what do we have any more questions?
No, actually, we have come to the end of this amazing conversation that we've had this evening. So unless there is something that we've missed or something that you ladies would like to discuss, then I think we are ready to say our goodbyes, unfortunately. I would love to talk all night. I could talk to all three of you all night. You're so inspirational. So I'm really happy that I've been able to be a part of this.
So thank you so much to all three of you amazing nurses. Thank you. This has been, I'm not a nurse, but this to me, I'm like, wow, okay, I would really want you three to be my like mentors, helping me, inspiring me. Because at the end of the day, you guys are not only very smart, you not only have just a tremendous amount of wisdom, but you're very inspiring and you're doing things all the time and you're very active and you're very engaged and you really understand how nurses feel and what needs to happen. And you cannot say enough about how amazing that is. So I want to thank you so much. Any final words from anybody before we close this out?
No, I wanted to say just thank you for the opportunity. It's great to meet you, Mildred. It's great to meet you, Sara. You guys can stay in touch on LinkedIn or any of the social media. Dionne Sinclair, just look me up, not an issue. Send me a private message, not an issue. I'd love to stay in touch.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Awesome,
having
yeah.
me on. It's been great conversation, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful Nurses Week. And remember the oxygen mask protocol. You got to put your mask on first before you can help anyone else.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Happy Nurses Week to all my fellow nurses out there. And again, take the time, self-care, and your mental wealth and awareness is very important.
Thank you. Thanks again very much from Caring Support. Take care, ladies.